pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Right. Board Member Emery Fulham.
Here.
Board Member Anthony Talia.
Here.
Board Member Brian DeSessa is going to be late. Board Member Mark Shippers.
Here.
And also as counsel, it's going to be Sean Cambridge.
Okay, reading of your minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Anne Marie,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mark Schifter. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. We have a couple of hearings scheduled, but we're gonna hold off for a few minutes until until Brian gets here.
Yes, Mr. Schiffert is recused on the hearing, David Fink v. Georgia Builders. So I'm going to recommend the board take these out of order today until Mr. DeSessa is present and there's a quorum for that matter.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll wait until Brian arrives. Anne Marie, you have a complaint on Margot Brothers?
Yes, I spoke with both
Did-
parties involved, and I would recommend that we schedule them for a hearing for next month.
Okay. Would you, Anne Marie?
It's about their workmanship.
You want to
So,
make a
and-
motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we schedule a hearing for next month on, what's the date, Malin?
August 9th.
August 9th, for a
Right.
hearing with Sandy Russell and Minot Brothers Swimming Pool Care.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed, so moved. Okay, being we're holding off on the hearing on that one.
There's a new complaint?
Excuse me?
There's a new complaint?
There's one that was assigned to Brian.
No, there's non-jurisdiction?
There's one signed to Brian, but he's not here yet.
No.
No, but isn't there one,
The new complaint is no jurisdiction.
That's what
No
it's supposed to-
jurisdiction.
do we need to make a motion for that?
It's no jurisdiction.
No, non-jurisdiction letter
No, we
will
don't
be
have to make a
sent
motion on
on the
that.
matter of
Yeah,
Douglas
no.
Gulia v. Steve Lesmansky. Non-jurisdiction means that this person is unlicensed by this board. The Division of Code Enforcement may issue summonses for unlicensed home improvement contractor, but this board does not have jurisdiction until a license is issued. So that's why a non-jurisdiction letter will be sent out on this complaint.
So to move forward, we have new applications. We have 22 of them.
I've got one last one here, Tony.
Anne Marie has one left. We have 21.
I'll be very quick, I'm halfway through it. Oh. Okay.
Okay? 22 new applications. With your pleasure.
You make a motion to approve?
Mark Schifter makes a motion to approve.
Second.
By Anne Marie. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, so moved. We have 41 renewal applications, home improvement, right? What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to renew?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
Aye. All opposed?
I'll second, Malin.
Anne Marie, second. All opposed? So moved. New registration, plumbing registrations. We have 3.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Renewal plumbing registrations.
I'll make a
We have
motion to
6.
approve.
All in motion, second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. So at this point, I will not open the hearing on Michael White and Mr. Fink till Brian gets here. So everybody sit back, no radios, no talking, and no yelling at me.
Oh, which one?
Which
Right
one?
there, those. These might,
Yeah.
are out of order, sorry, they're probably all out of order. I just don't think you.
There you go.
You're welcome. What's today? Today's the 12th, right?
Hmm?
Today's the 12th, right? It says it. This one. This is the second copy for you.
Got
I
that.
have one. We
I
got
have it.
twice, Brian gave it. Yeah.
I have it. I have it all.
So I'll give it back to me one. Alright.
What's that? Yes. Sure. Hi. Let me just find it in this book here. You're gonna be appearing as counsel on this, I'm assuming? Yeah, it is. complaints made, we schedule a hearing. We allow both
Need
sides
time to go.
testimony. In this instance, we have a town license and a village license. The Southampton Village has authorized the town board by IFA to address the village complaint against the town standard. All right? Previously, they had Suffolk County doing this. They authorized the town. So there is a complaint. They have to allege grounds that are within 143 of the town code and request the relief they want of this board. It's no action, suspend or revoke. And that's what we're here for. So I'm going to recommend to the board today to open a second hearing for the village matter, because this was only signed yesterday. The village authorized it back in February. It was only duly executed yesterday. So today, people can get up and say, I'd like all my testimony, from our prior hearing to be included here. The board will consider all that. Today will be a continuation of the town and opening the village. I don't know if the board will be inclined to close or not. They typically issue final determinations in writing, and that would be your trigger if you don't follow.
And how long, just generally speaking, does it take to make a decision?
I'm not sure. That's going to be up to the board here. Okay. Here, if you want to take a look, this is my copy.
I'll get it back. I'm not going anywhere.
Mei Lin could probably get you a copy as well.
All right, sounds good. If you want to make a copy, that'd be great, or I'll just sit here and read it.
Yeah, we can mail you a copy after the fact, or,
You give me your business card, we'll email you whatever. Are you an attorney?
I am.
All right. So have you, pick your business card, and then at the end of this, later
Yes,
today, I will email
sure.
you
Before
the
Brian,
file
wait,
that's
while
there.
we're waiting.
No, Brian's here.
Oh, welcome back. Yes.
all right.
Okay.
Forgot today was Wednesday.
That's all right.
How the week's going?
Huh?
I was like, today's Wednesday?
Look at the time.
Yeah?
Now you want us to push it to 10:30?
No.
I mean, lawyer, can never be on time. Professional people.
Professional lateness.
I know. That's why you get paid the big bucks. Yes. Okay, at this time, we're all here. We're gonna open the hearing up, reopen the hearing on Michael White and as far as the town license.
Right, so for sake of clarity, we have two licensing matters at issue here. Southampton Village has authorized the Southampton Town License Review Board to hear matters involving licensing of home improvement contractors in the village and take action against their license where appropriate. Again, this board has jurisdiction to take no action, suspend or revoke, based on factors outlined in section 143 of the town code. So today I'm going to recommend the board open the hearing on the village matter to run alongside the town matter. If you'd like your prior testimony to be considered, just state that when you step up today. The board will also consider written exhibits. Since our last hearing date, the board has received following communications: an email from Senior Building Inspector, Village of Southampton, addressed to the License Review Board, stating looks like some violations listed regarding occupation of dwellings without certificate of occupancy, and violations alleged regarding the Architectural Review Board for the Village of Southampton in relation to this matter. We've also received a letter from Joe Merlau addressed to the Licensing Review Board. This appears to be a character letter in favor of the home improvement contractor. I did not read it in its entirety, but that's what it appears to be. And we received a submission from Mr. Fink, putting his position in writing. Again, I recommend the board consider all testimony presented in the town hearing and the village hearing as well. And you can proceed. When you step up, I ask you to state your name and record, name and address for the record. You're going to swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And then begin. Please state your reason for testimony, if it's a ground against the home improvement contractor, if it's in support of a home improvement contractor, and the relief you are requesting of this board. No action, suspend or revoke. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, the town, we already had a hearing on the town, we already had testimony, so that'll be incorporated into the village thing. At this point, I'd like to open the hearing up on the village license. So is there anybody here that want to testify? Mr. Fink?
Want me to go first, Mr. White?
No, you go first.
Excuse
Now,
me,
we already have your testimony on the town
you
level.
want these documents that I have?
Excuse me, don't talk off the floor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
not you. Just wait, you'll have your turn.
I just wanted to see if you needed these now.
Just one what? I'm sorry.
I had documents also that I wanted to submit.
You'll have a
Well,
turn. Yes, you
I
will.
didn't do it
Yep.
before. All right,
Okay.
All right, so please state your name and address for the record,
David Fink, 185 Bishop's Lane, Southampton, 11968.
and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth with knowledge of penalties for perjury?
So help me God, yes.
Please begin.
Just so I'm clear, I can just confirm that my testimony with the town is applicable to the village. So I
Correct.
don't need to rehash all that.
You don't have to rehash it.
Okay,
We
so,
already have that testimony.
okay, so for the record, that testimony is applicable to the village.
Right.
That's done,
Right.
okay.
They're gonna be in conjunction.
Thank you. I and others have gone to great lengths to provide this board with extensive documentary evidence that Mr. White, both personally and through his various entities, has on multiple occasions violated multiple sections of Article 14311B and Section 777 of the General Business Laws of the State of New York in order for you to rightfully revoke his license in the town and village of Southampton. As outlined in my recent submission to the board on July 10th, and based upon the documentation provided, Mr. White has misled this board based on perjurious testimony. I believe this untruthful testimony has been an intentional effort by Mr. White to materially impact your decision whether the license should be revoked due to multiple violations of Section 14311 and Section 777. Mr. White has shown a blatant disregard for the truth in front of this board, and on this alone should be more than grounds to have his license revoked. It would be shocking to me, along with all the other individuals and companies who have experienced Mr. White's repeated dishonesty and unprofessional behavior over the years, to not have this board revoke his license. In addition, I am confident, based on my conversations to date, that the town and village building inspectors would not be opposed to the board revoking Mr. White's license, and quite frankly, would consider it long overdue. At the end of the day, this board has the long-awaited opportunity to hold Mr. White and his various entities accountable, and to send a clear message to all contractors doing business in the town and village that the type of behavior exhibited by Mr. White in this complaint and over the years, and with making untruthful and perjurious testimony before this board, will not be tolerated. In conclusion, I reiterate back to my original complaint and respectfully ask this board to serve justice where justice is due, based upon the various testimonies to date and the extensive documentary evidence provided along with his perjurious testimony before this board, and find Mr. White, Georgica Builders, Emanon South, in clear violation of multiple sections of 143-11 and Section 777, and revoke his license to do business in the town and village of Southampton. Thank
Any
you.
questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. White? Excuse me.
Good morning. At the last meeting, I don't think I fully explained everything. I didn't,
Let's swear you in first.
oh, I'm sorry.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Michael White, 276 North Main Street,
Do
Southampton.
you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth with knowledge of penalties for perjury?
Yes,
And do you
I
have
do.
counsel appearing on your behalf today?
He's just taking it in.
Okay, I just wanted to give you the option. Counsel
Yeah.
can appear on your behalf if you prefer.
Yep. So at the last meeting, I haven't ever been before this board. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't think it was gonna be like a public inquisition, so I kind of wasn't really prepared, but there was a couple things that were told that were complete lies, and you'll see in Joe Merlot's letter, she's the client that lives next to Mr. Fink that I built, that I recently completed their house. He said that I was stealing water from his house and that I buried his water main under a tree. So Mrs. Marlowe was very upset by this because somebody sent her the complaint anonymously, and then Mr. Fink went over there to try to convert her over to saying that I did such a bad job on our house. So she called the Suffolk County Water Authority about 2 weeks ago. They showed up and they said to the Merlots, turn your sprinklers on and turn everything on in your house. And I'm gonna check his water meter. His water meter wasn't moving. And he also said, he also opened the vault, and I have pictures here of the vault of his house. That was taken yesterday.
To the board secretary.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
So, these are
Don't
pictures.
speak until you get to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Those are pictures of the vault. They were clearly not covered with trees. The guy said there was plenty of access, and when I called the water authority, I think they actually sent a letter that's included in there that this was all nonsense. Their question was, why does Mr. Fink want to be in the Suffolk County Water Authority vault? He has no rights to go in there. And if he was putting a water stop, meter on there, you don't have to turn off the water. You turn off the water in your house and you install it. So, they're kind of perplexed why he was even in the vault. They said that's actually illegal, which I know. The only one that has the rights are the fire department and I think a plumber that gets permission. So that's a total lie. And, there's no way trees were planted on top of that meter. They would be, 2 foot out of the ground. The other thing that I just got, I never saw this, he has on here, where are we? Complaints, code enforcement complaints. I've been building in the village for 30 years. I've built maybe 100 houses. There occasionally you get noise complaints because guys start early. They said that I was arrested. I haven't ever been arrested, and it even says in here, these are town village complaints that I took care of that were dismissed. It said, here's the best one. This is how much of a lie this whole thing is. Arrest reports. Then if you go through them, it doesn't say one single time I was arrested, processed, and released. Like, you can't get arrested for having a billboard. You can't get arrested for starting early. One of them's in front of my house. There was a dead tree that was fallen over at the curb. So I took down the tree and I put in a new one. So the village highway department guy came there and he gave me a fine, and I showed him. I went to court and the village agreed with me that I planted a tree, and they threw it out. In fact, they fired the highway superintendent because he was doing a lot of that stuff to different people in the village. So, this thing is like, if you guys go through this, you guys have been around long enough to know when you're building, there's people, especially the village, all they do is complain all day. That's just the way the village is. As far as the building inspector saying I should lose my license, I'd really like to get Tin here because he hasn't ever had a violation with me, structural or anything. So I find that very hard to believe. I worked with Chris Talbot for years. My brother worked with him at, oh God, I forget the plumber in Riverhead, the big, what's his name, did commercial. We used to work with Chris. Like, Chris knows that I don't cut corners. I don't do any of that. I haven't ever had another complaint before this board. The last guy that was here, Mr. Guberman, I built 2 houses for him. The first one he made $3 million on, and the other one's the highest priced house ever sold on Bishop's Lane. But, he's never happy because he owes the landscaper $250,000. He owes this guy, he owes my painter. And it just goes on. And it's, I just wanted to go quickly through. I have, these are all sets of, what's going on. So, the one thing I don't think I made clear was when Mr. Fink bought this house, he had a home inspector. It wasn't Mike Benacasa. It was a different company. So they agreed with my lawyer on 10 issues that were supposed to be done. So the first one was the vacuum. One of the outlets was, they put trim over it. So we took that off, and I was supposed to immediately be released $2,500. There was $10,000 in escrow. So my lawyer calls them, asks them for the $2,500. They're like, no. So I do the rest of this stuff on the list. And with Mr. Fink's, if you go to page number, 6. Do you see where, that's our escrow agreement. That $10,000 was taken out of the purchase price. And as you can see where it says, I circled it, where it says 10,000 in escrow, all these items were completed. The typed stuff is where it says it was completed. You can see where it says completed. This is all his handwriting, his typing of him manipulating the document that it's completed. $2,500 for the vacuum. I was supposed to be released that, never got it. I completed the rest of this stuff, never got it. Then, and if you see on page 7, it says $2,500 will be released upon the completion of the vacuum, never released. Then there's a $7,500 balance. I did the rest of it, never released it. Then after I finish everything, he's got another list. So I said, listen, I'll finish the list, what's legit. I said, but you gotta release the $10,000 for the first one. I've been through this. You'll be a handyman at somebody's house for the rest of your life. Like if you don't, put down your foot and get the first escrow. So then he's like, after like 6 months, in August, he hires Mike Benacasa, who goes through the house, finds a couple things. He says that we didn't put the dryer vent outside the house, which is impossible because we had the house as a rental and I lived there for 4 months. So how would the dryer not work? If it was, dryers don't heat up if they have a restriction. So how would we be drying clothes all that time? If it's electric or gas, if it doesn't have airflow, it shuts off. So, all this stuff is just over $10,000. He's a guy that's used to getting his way. He's a real estate developer. And I told him no. I said, I want my money. And he refused to give it to us. And then he's got another list and another list. One thing that did happen was we used to own both lots and we subdivided them. So there's an electric line that went to the garage and it was on the property line. So when we dug the hole, it fell in the hole. So I told him when he leaves in the summer, I would replace the line. I temporarily had it buried underground. As soon as he was ready, I dug the hole in his driveway, put the new line in, and that was it. And then he's trying to charge me because the solar wasn't hooked up. When you get solar, you call the electric company, you tell them, you put it in your name. I can't do that. And he says, well, you didn't turn the breaker on. I had to get an electrician. This is the nonsense that's on this list. And he's trying to make me out like I'm this bad guy, like I screw over everybody. I've built hundreds of houses here. I've built 200 in North Carolina. I haven't ever had a problem. I had a license in North Carolina that's like taking an engineer's test. It takes 3 days to take. I didn't lose that license. I never had a complaint. And it's just, I don't know. I've been doing this since I'm 20 years old, and I just, if I had a structural problem, or God forbid I had a fire, I'd understand this, but this is, I would have worked it out with him too. Instead, he puts a $60,000 insurance claim in that the insurance company is refusing to pay, and they're going to the state and investigate it because he has no bills for it. Because we had a leak, one of the diverters went, it was defective, it was made by it was defective. We fixed it, we cleaned up the place, did all the paint work, didn't charge him a cent, and he puts in a claim and he gets $60,000. And my insurance company won't pay it, and they're putting a complaint in because he put in a false claim. It never ends with him. And, it's beyond me why a guy in Maryland that's successful would be battling it out with me when he knows I didn't do anything wrong to his house. And then he brings up his friend in that unfortunate accident in Noyak and puts me in like a grouping with, some guy that renovated a house with, evidently with no smoke alarms or CO2 or access, and acts like his house is like
Okay,
that.
let's stick to the point of
You know, and
of
that's-
the complaint.
I'm just,
Now we're getting into more character.
no, I know, but this is just, that's the character of what we're dealing
Okay,
with.
but
And I
have a-
think,
I have a couple of questions.
okay,
You saw this thing from the village of Southampton, right?
no. Yep.
Okay.
So the
Yes.
certificate of occupancy issues were during COVID, right? So I couldn't get the Suffolk County health permit, so I was living there. So what was I supposed to do? And Chris Talbot was aware of it. I went to village court and they settled it. There was no fine, there was no nothing. It was done, over. So it was adjudicated.
Well,
Then-
there's more than one, there's
Just
four items there.
Well, there's two, right, those are the two during COVID. Now, the other one, violation of architectural review board, that's in the courts right now. What they did with that case, that's not my house, that's what I was told to do. So what happened was, if you drive around Southampton Village, you see houses with black windows, right? All over. Then the village ARB decides they don't want black windows. In the code, it says you're allowed to build a deck. It doesn't say you have to have a certain size lot. So my client got tired of it after all the meetings, and he consulted with a lawyer, and he's like, I want you to build the deck, and I want you to paint the windows black. He goes, it's outrageous, it's illegal, and he's in court right now. And it's outrageous. You can't tell somebody what color house to paint. It's wrong. It's not right, and it's been proven before. And the other one, 276 North Main Street, that's my house. I have a set of blueprints that are signed off by them. And actually, we're in court. We were in court yesterday, and they haven't even given us the plans that were approved, because the plans that are approved are the ones that I have signed off. We've been in court with them for 4 months, and the village is supposed to throw it out in 2 weeks because they have a set of blueprints. They signed off on the wrong plans. They made us bring in 4 sets of plans, and they signed off on the wrong one. They gave it to my expediter and said, this is the plans, and the guy drew the plans that had the signature on them.
So this was all dated July 11th, this year.
Yeah,
This is-
So they're still all open.
no, the first 2 aren't open, they're
This
over.
is this is an email, was dated July 11th. for this.
July 11th, this we got.
Yeah. These first two he's saying were through COVID. You just said
Yeah, but
something
there's
about,
but
Can I ask a question?
according to the yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
you said something just amongst with the ARB about a deck,
Yeah,
and you said that, I
In the-
mean, aren't there setbacks established? And
no, in the code, it says, it doesn't say you can't have a deck, it says you can have a deck. The ARB has been deciding, which they're not a judicial board, they've been saying, well, you could have a deck, you can't have one, you can have one, and it's been, I went to court in Woolley Street like 4 or 5 years ago, and the judge, in his decision, he wrote that you can't tell people what color to paint your house, you can't be arbitrary and capricious with the code. They try to make me move my house back. You have setbacks. I even had, at the time, I had John Foster write a letter when he was the building inspector. It said that he is the final judge of where things go in zoning. So if the zoning says 40 feet setbacks, you can't tell somebody to put it 50. That's not allowed.
what
So
was the specific issue with this deck, with the ARB and this particular
the
violation?
ARB said, well, we didn't like the deck where it was. We think it's too close to your neighbors, but it's not in the code. So the guy I built the house for, he goes, I don't care. He goes, build it. He goes, I don't need a CO. He goes, just build the deck, paint the house black, and he goes, I'll go to court with them. He's
But
like,
you
this,
still built it even though they said not to?
who did?
You built the deck even though they said not to?
They
Like,
didn't tell
not the
me.
owner,
Well,
yeah.
on the plans, it had the deck, and then they said, you can't build the deck. So he told me to build the deck, and that's what I did. And he said, I'll take care of it. So
Are you in court now? Is he in court now?
He's in court, yeah.
Do you have
He's-
documentation showing that he's in court?
Tim is actually his lawyer.
Huh?
Tim is actually his lawyer.
Everything's e-filed in that case. It's,
He's in, you're in court?
yeah, it's on appeal currently.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's on appeal. Yeah, I'm happy to email the board, whatever. It's all public
I
documents.
just
They're
need
all
documentation.
Hmm.
Don't you know, I just need documentation.
We need,
Here.
yeah.
The what?
Yeah, if you send it to us, please.
Counsel, if you could just speak from the microphone, just so it's on our recording, please. Thank you.
The documents that you were referring to are with respect to the Falcaos, the owner of, 135 Lewis Street. Those documents are all e-filed. The article, it was an Article 78 challenge that was denied, and there's been an appeal filed that, the notice of appeal was filed, I think it was about a month ago now, and the appeal is in the process of being perfected to the appellate division, second department.
Counsel, can you just put your appearance on the record, please?
Sure, yeah, sorry. Tim McAuliffe, McAuliffe Law, PLLC, 3 Breeze Hill Road, East Hampton, New York.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I'm happy to email, whenever you want to see the notice of appeal, the Article 78 petition.
Yeah, if you would.
Right. And I just know for the record that the other village code violation with respect to 276 North Main, I made a motion to dismiss that for failure to comply with the speedy trial requirements of CPL 3020 and 3030. And that motion was unopposed by the village. Was opposed verbally, but not in writing, as the judge had requested. So that motion is pending a decision, and the judge adjourned the matter for 2 weeks for decision on that motion to dismiss.
Okay.
Thank you.
When you get that decision, can you email that to us or
I can.
get it over? Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Back to Mr. White.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, and, the other part of it too is the village has a budget for legal fees, legal expenses. It's 300,000. They're almost at $1 million. What happened was the old mayor put in a lot of very tough people on these boards that didn't know what they were doing, and they're costing the village a lot of money. They're denying things for no reason. The zoning board of appeals is denying use changes. They're denying, they'll let one go on one block, the next block they won't let it, and they've been losing, and sometimes,
Okay.
and that's. Any other questions?
Nope.
What's the
Well, I
relief
do
you're
have one
asking of the board?
question.
The what?
The relief you're asking of the board? Just make sure you.
I'm just
include that.
asking for, I know you can't award my 10,000, but I'm just asking to be,
Well, we can't award any.
no, I know that.
Okay, one question I do have for
Well,
you. You said that the vent for the dryer, there's no harm in that, but it's not code.
No, I didn't say there's no harm in it. I said if it was restricted, it just wouldn't go on
Well,
anymore.
it may not, it won't restrict it if it's just dumping out, but it is against code.
I know
Just-
it's against. code.
That's what Mr. Benacasa said, it didn't meet code.
Yeah, but it was vented outside.
I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah, no,
for the
I
record.
understand that.
Okay.
It was vented outside, and my point was, if it was like stuck in a wall or something, and it was like restricted or bent the pipe, it wouldn't work anymore.
Okay, I'm just clearing that.
No,
up.
I understand.
Any questions for Mr. White?
Mr. White, we just need you to state whether you're asking for no action,
Yeah, that's-
suspension, or revocation on your license. I guess it could probably
No
be
action.
inferred, but, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Anne Marie.
No, he just did it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You want to come back up? Yeah. Okay.
And you're still sworn.
I'm still sworn. David Fink, I just want to clarify Mr. White's
Understood.
statement that the water was being used after my water meter onto the house next door. My complaint alleges that he tapped into my sprinkler system. He didn't tap into the water main. So the sprinkler system runs up the side of the house, and he had a lateral from my sprinkler system to the house next door. So it wasn't actually at the water meter, okay?
Okay.
And I fixed that at my own expense by cutting off the line from my sprinkler system to the house next door. So if, and I was there, of course, the water company would not see any movement because I'd already cut it off, and it was not at the water meter, it was at the sprinkler line.
Okay, thank you. Any other testimony?
Same thing, please state your name and address for the record.
Francis Genovese, 209 Bishop's Lane, Southampton Village.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth with knowledge of penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please begin.
I'm here to support Mr. Fink and to report on my own situation with Mr. White. My house is on the north side of his property. I'm here solely to address number 3 in your code 143.11, the trustworthiness or good character of the person. I'm here to contest the fact that Mr. White has good character, good intentions, intends to obey the law, and follows instructions given to him. To just correct one thing, and I'd be happy to provide the documentation as well. And the lawsuit on Lewis Street, the decision went against his client, and the judge was very explicit about the fact that Mr. White intended to disobey the law. And I believe as part of that lawsuit, there was some personal thing that he was claiming that the board, the ARB, made their decision based on the fact that they don't like him. Only to say that everything is personalized and seen through a prism of self-interest with this developer. I would like just to review the simple narrative of my experience with him. The first thing he did upon assuming the property when he was to remove the surveyor stakes, he would not maintain the property boundary. And as for Mrs. Merlot, his client who loves his work so much, I contacted her. She assured me that a fence would be built, that no trees would be disturbed, nothing would be, and that she would, in effect, control this. Well, flash forward. After he removed the surveyor stalks and refused to maintain the boundary, he did what is common on his sites, is he moved in huge mounds of dirt, sand that blurred the boundary lines. He stored heavy equipment from other jobs. It was a mess for several years. I went to when he applied for a building permit, I went to the ARB and asked them to deny the side garage because the property could not accommodate a turn radius. 2 members of the ARB agreed, and they nevertheless, and they acknowledged that there were mature trees that straddled both properties. That must be maintained. On June 28th of 2021, Mr. White appeared but allowed his architect, someone named Charles Lembo, to make the statement that the trees they realized the importance of the trees and they would be maintained. I have the ARB minutes on that. In November of the same year, he removed them. He came in and he willfully removed them. He continued for the duration of his project to remove shrubbery, dump sand so that nothing could be built. The building inspector came numerous times and put any kind of a barrier he could. They removed every barrier. I have pictures. I have videos. He never intended to obey the law. He intended to say what he had to say to get his building permit and go on. I think that I understand that this board is circumscribed by the law and that the numerous complaints from the village building department may not be germane to this hearing, yet I think they shouldn't be ignored. I think that you have to look at a pattern of behavior here. And I think it's also very interesting that the law seems to be movable in Mr. White's case, because when he finds that he's being annoyed by noise, if you look through the police reports that were provided, 1/3 of them have to do with him going after some club that was was making noise near where he was living, and he was discommoded by that, and he did not want to be so. But when he does it to everyone else, that's perfectly fine. I say that his license should be revoked. He has got, the building inspector had to come to the site just on this small problem with me numerous times. Talk about costing money to the municipality. So I ask that you avail yourself of all of the information on this man. Take what he says with a grain of salt and
Okay.
revoke his
Okay.
license. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Genovese.
And I will provide documentation
I-
for everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. White, you want to say something?
First off, the house I built on 191, it wasn't years, it was 11 months I built the house. I never pulled the stakes out. There's no reason to pull the stakes. That would be ridiculous. I put stakes in, why would I pull them out? Plus, when the foundation was in, we know it's exactly 20 feet to the property line anyway. So, I mean, Kevin could attest, I've never pulled a stake out in my life. I don't know why I would do it there. As far as the building inspector being there, he'll tell you that she would call him every day. In fact, there's documentation. She wanted the Merlots to give her $3,800. They gave her $1,800 to keep her quiet the first time. She said she was gonna put shrubs. She did nothing. She didn't landscape her yard. I mean, you could drive over there and see she's done nothing in years. And then she wanted another $3,800 for 3 trees. And then at the end, it became $5,000, and Merlot sent her a letter that said, you know, like, stay away from us, leave us
Okay,
alone.
this is all.
No, I know.
This is all hearsay, so.
No, I know, but
if we
she
don't
just.
have any documentation.
I know, she
on
just
it.
gave you
Okay.
a cloud of hearsay.
Okay, you already,
And as, I just want to say one more thing. I used to live on Pulaski Street, and there was a nightclub there. And at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, it was loud, and it's known. I've had houses, I have a house being built next to me now. I could care less about a house being built, but, 3 in the morning with music, I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of when you draw.
we got that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to respond to that, please.
Okay,
Last thing.
This conforms to accusations of him never being able to state the truth, if he even can recognize it. Number one, he pulled out the stakes, the building inspector of the village of
okay,
Southampton.
excuse me, Mrs. Genovese. We do not have any documentation on that. We don't have any photos.
I
So
do,
So if you would forward that to us,
I will.
okay. So we need that before we could let you,
Okay.
talk about something that we don't know about.
All right. He brought it up. I have to respond to it.
Okay, that's fine. Give us
Okay.
documentation.
As to his comments that the Merlots wrote me and said, keep away from me and all that, that's a complete lie. As to the first $3,800 they paid me was because after I went in and replanted a bunch of mature shrubbery along the border, which he had destroyed, his equipment knocked it out within 2 days.
Okay, so.
And they made restitution
So
for that.
you don't have a letter? You have
I
never gotten a
have
letter?
documentation
No, I'm
of
talking
all
about a
of it.
letter from the,
No, there is no letter from the Merlots.
Okay, that's all.
There are emails from him making accusations
Okay.
and threats.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Wait, get up.
So if I may interject, the scope of
Yes.
this
It's
hearing
not about
is for
that.
home improvement contractor license.
Yeah.
Arrests that are referenced are not considered.
Right.
Things beyond the scope of section 143 are not considered. So while people can testify to what they'd like, this board has a very specific set of circumstances and facts they're going to consider, and those are within the bounds of chapter 143 of the town code. Please keep that in mind as you testify here before this board. Thank you.
I just,
This the last time.
last time. So, as far as the trees went on Merlot's property, before those came down, we set up a meeting with 2 ARB members. They wouldn't, so they didn't have a quorum, so they took the information back, and we showed them that it was a 20-foot setback, and one of the trees was 6 feet off the property, and there was no way to get in the garage, and they said, what are you gonna do? You gotta take them down, and that was what happened. And Frances was at the meeting, and she also had
Isn't
the
that
plan.
not part of this?
No, I understand, I just want
Right.
to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Clarify by-
Any, excuse me, no talking, any other conversation, any other person want to come up and testify? No? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the hearing, for us to make a decision.
Is there a second?
Excuse me?
That's your last
All right.
opportunity. If you
Last
wanna-
opportunity.
The board's moving to close the hearing, so anyone who wants to speak, now is the time. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Kevin Pollock. My address is 300 Ontario Street, Ronkonkoma, New York.
And Mr. Pollock, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth with knowledge of penalties for perjury?
I do.
Please begin.
I just wanted to testify that I've been working for Mike for on and off for about 15 years. I never had any, we never had any problems with any of the inspectors or the residents. This is the first time anything like this has ever happened. So as far as, complaining about trees and stuff being taken down, but, that's just not the way it went. When we were trying to build a fence, she was coming out cursing at all the workers, constantly. They couldn't even do their job because she was out yelling at them all the time.
Okay, that's not, you're not testifying, giving us any information as far as the home improvement license. You're talking about Mrs. Genovese?
I'm just talking, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the first time, as far as the
doesn't-
licensing goes, I mean, we never had any problems
So,
until now.
again, you could address, this complaint is against the home improvement contractor license. If you want to testify to character of your employer or Mr. Fink, and state the relief you're requesting of this board, that would be appropriate. So if you could just denote which character you're speaking,
I'm speaking in favor of Michael White.
and the relief you're requesting of this board today, and
No.
anything you'd like to add.
No action be taken.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to close the meeting for the board to make the final decision. I get a motion.
So moved.
If we close it, are they allowed to provide documentation?
Who?
If we close it, are they allowed to provide
After we get the rest of the
So I'd recommend
documentation.
a 14-day written comment period. Anything received by the board today will be disseminated to all parties, but I recommend you cut it off at 14 days.
Right.
And
That's
any
Okay.
decision would be in writing.
14 days. Well,
after
we have to
that.
get the rest of the documentation,
Right,
yes.
so we have a full spectrum of everything that's submitted before
Right.
this board.
So
I'll second that motion.
we're closing the hearing. I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. We'll wait until we get the rest of the documentation, and the board will make a decision. Thank you very much for everybody coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll get a copy of that as well. You left that card?
Junk.
Okay. Take care.
Where's your
Oh.
paper, Max? Did you sign my name? Yeah. You signed my name, so I don't need to do it then.
It's 10:30, I have to go at
Okay.
10:30.
I'd like to get a motion to adjourn?
No,
You have one more.
No. Okay.
sorry. You
Take
still
care.
have Bernice Chu versus Daniel S. Collins, DBA Done Right Home Improvement, which was given to Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Brian,
okay.
you were late, that's why
I was late.
okay, sorry.
I reached out to both parties and did not hear back from either.
So what's your recommendation?
We carried over for one more month.
Okay.
Would be the motion.
I'll
We have a
second it.
Motion carried over, second,
I'll
Diane
second.
Marie, all in favor, aye.
Yeah, I
All,
know.
all opposed, so move. At this point, I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, so move.
Okay, great.